The sky hung heavy over the black hills, stars peeking through cloud breaks like silent watchers in the dark. It was nearly midnight when the six friends finally made camp in the shadow of Mount Rushmore, far off the tourist path, deep in a forest where ancient pines whispered secrets to each other. The place had a legend, one whispered among the Lakota people, about something that moved between the trees, something that fed on curiosity and dared trespassers to look too deep into the dark. No one in the group believed in such things, of course. "Let's make this our most badass weekend yet," shouted Derek, tossing down his pack. The rest followed, half drunk on anticipation, half drained from the long hike in. There was Lauren, the self-proclaimed ghost hunter, who had picked the location, Mikey, her anxious younger brother who tagged along reluctantly, Jess and Troy, the couple who never stopped bickering, and Sam, quiet and reserved, with a camera slung across his chest like armor. They had no idea what waited for them. The campsite was surrounded by dense forest, and the path they'd followed up from the river had all but vanished in the darkness. The trees stood like sentinels, motionless but looming, their bark gnarled and black in the firelight. The group pitched two tents just beyond a cluster of mossy rocks and built a fire in a hollow where the wind whispered softly, always whispering. By 12:03 a.m., the fire was crackling and laughter echoed through the clearing. Lauren poked the flames with a stick, grinning. "Did you know the Lakota believed this forest was cursed? They say there's something here, the Winyan Nupa, the two women. They're not really women, more like shadows that mimic voices to lure people away from the fire." "Cool," Mikey muttered, wrapping a hoodie around his shoulders. "Great story to tell just before bed." Troy rolled his eyes. "It's a folk tale. This place is perfectly safe." "Is it?" Sam's voice was quiet. He was staring into the trees, camera pointed toward the dark. "I swear I saw something out there earlier. Something fast." Everyone turned to look, but there was only silence. Sam blinked and shook his head. "Must have been an animal." Lauren snorted. "See? Now that's creepy. Tell it again. What did it look like?" Sam hesitated. "Tall? Too tall to be a deer or bear, but it moved low to the ground. All I saw was a shape. Thin, pale." Mikey exhaled sharply. "Awesome. Super comforting, man." The wind picked up, rustling the trees like skeletal fingers brushing leaves, and the fire flickered low for a moment. No one spoke. Something in the air changed, subtle, like the drop in pressure. The fire snapped, casting frantic shadows across the trees, but the figures didn't reveal themselves. The footsteps stopped just beyond the reach of the firelight, too synchronized to be animals, too hesitant to be human. It was as if the forest itself had grown legs and crept inward. Jess was clutching Troy's arm now, her voice barely a whisper. "Say something. Do something." Troy took a cautious step forward and shone the flashlight deeper into the woods. "Hello? If you're out there, this isn't funny." Silence. Then a whisper from behind them. "Behind you." They spun around. Nothing. Sam's camera went off again, flash bursting against the trees. This time, the group saw it too, a figure ducking behind a thick pine. It was tall, inhumanly thin, and impossibly fast. Jess screamed. Mikey stumbled backward, nearly falling into the fire pit. No, we're not doing this. I'm done. We're leaving." "We can't leave now," Lauren hissed, voice urgent. "It's pitch black. If we go running through those woods, we'll break our necks." "What if we stay and it breaks our necks for us?" Mikey countered, panic rising in his voice. Then something slammed against one of the tents. Bam! The nylon sagged inward, as if a body had fallen against it from the outside. Jess screamed again. Derek lunged for the tent and yanked the zipper open, but it was empty, except for a line of muddy handprints smeared across the inside wall. They were too small to be adult hands, too long in the fingers, like a child's, but not quite. "Nope, no, I'm out." Jess started grabbing gear blindly. "Wait," Sam said sharply. "Do you hear that?" They all fell still. The forest had gone deathly silent. No crickets, no birds, not even the wind. A silence so deep it buzzed inside their ears. And then a low groan, like the earth itself was exhaling. Lauren turned to the others. "There's a legend about this place, how the Winyan Nupa use your own voice to lure you away. You go chasing what you think is someone in danger, or your friend, or even yourself." "I don't care if it's the ghost of Abraham Lincoln out there," Derek muttered. "We can't stay here." Jess stepped closer to the fire. "We need to keep the flames high. If that thing is real, light might be the only thing keeping it out." "Agreed," Troy said. "Let's gather more wood." But none of them wanted to leave the clearing, not even for a few feet. Sam finally stood up, camera clutched like a weapon. "I'll go with Troy. We'll be fast." They disappeared into the dark, flashlights barely cutting through the gloom. Every rustle made their skin crawl. As they picked up branches and broken limbs, Sam couldn't help but glance over his shoulder every few seconds. "There's something wrong with the air, like it's thick, like breathing underwater." Sam didn't reply. He was focused on something else, a shape between the trees. It was standing completely still. Too still. Then it moved, slipping silently behind another trunk. "Did you see that?" he whispered. Troy nodded, white-faced. "Yeah, we need to go, now." They turned to leave and stopped cold. The path was gone. No markers, no footprints, no way to tell which direction they had come from. What the hell? Fire became their sanctuary. They huddled around it, backs nearly touching as they formed a ragged circle, eyes straining against the darkness that curled just beyond the flickering light. No one slept. No one dared look away from the trees for more than a second. The forest pressed in tighter, like a living thing with 1,000 unseen eyes. Lauren's voice, the other Lauren, continued to echo from the woods every few minutes. "Lauren, I'm so cold. Please, come get me." She covered her ears, tears streaking through the grime on her cheeks. "It's not real. It's not real. I didn't answer. I didn't answer." Sam whispered to her, "You're okay. It can't mimic you fully if you don't acknowledge it." Jess hugged her knees. "How does it even know our names?" "They listen," Mikey said quietly. "They've been listening the whole time." No one responded to that. Then came a snap from the woods, loud, sharp, like a branch breaking under weight. Every flashlight swung in that direction. Nothing. Then, closer, behind them, another snap. Troy stood up suddenly, hands clenched into fists. "We need to leave. Hike out. I don't care how dark it is." Sam stared at him. "That's exactly what it wants. You leave the fire, you disappear, like that girl. That thing," Troy corrected. "Whatever it was, it almost tricked us. You think we can just walk 10 miles in pitch black without getting turned around?" Troy looked ready to argue, but Derek grabbed his arm. "Dude, chill. We make it till morning, we walk out in the light. Whatever's out there, maybe it can't follow." "Maybe?" Troy said. "That's the plan, Mao? Hope?" No one had an answer. The fire cracked, and for a few seconds the wind died. But then the forest began to speak. Not voices this time. Laughter. Dozens of voices, layered and overlapping, each one mimicking someone from the group. Lauren's laugh, then Jess's, Mikey's, Sam's, all repeating out of sync, some deep, some high, like the forest was chewing on their sounds and spitting them back out. "Stop it," Mikey said, plugging his ears. "Stop doing that." "Shh," Jess hissed. Then came the sound of footsteps, again. But this time, they were coming toward them, from all directions. Soft, deliberate, crunching slowly over dead leaves. Troy's voice trembled. "We're closing in." "No," Lauren whispered. "They want us to panic." Suddenly, Derek stood, staring into the woods. "Dude, what are you doing?" Sam asked. Derek tilted his head. "It's Sarah." Everyone froze. Sarah was Derek's little sister. She died in a car accident 2 years ago. "I hear her," he whispered. "She's crying. She needs me. She's cold, just like that girl." "No," Jess shouted. "That's not her. Derek, don't." But he was already walking away. Sam lunged for him, but Derek moved fast, far too fast. Within seconds, he disappeared into the woods. "Derek!" Jess screamed. "Derek, come back!" His voice echoed from the trees. "I'm fine. I found her." Then silence. A long, choking silence. The others waited. 10 seconds, 30, a minute. Then Sam grabbed the flashlight. "I'm going after him." Lauren stepped in front of him. "You can't. You heard what it did. He's gone. If we go after him, we're gone too." "You'd leave him out there?" "He's already not him anymore." Sam lowered the flashlight, trembling. Then came Derek's scream. It tore through the forest like a gunshot. The imitation of Sam's voice drifted closer, melting through the trees like fog. It had the exact cadence he used when calling out during their hike, the half laugh when he said "guys" like it was all a joke. But now it was hollow, mechanized. A recording slowed down to just the wrong speed. Jess squeezed her eyes shut and covered her ears. "Make it stop!" "Don't respond," Lauren whispered. "That's how it finds you. It needs you to answer." The voice circled their campsite, weaving between the trees just outside the ring of firelight. "Found something really weird. Come check this out." Each time it spoke, it was slightly off. At one point, it called Lauren Lorraine. Another time, it pronounced weird, like word, like a foreign tongue wearing a human mouth. Then it switched. Now it was Derek's voice. "Guys, please, I'm hurt." Sam gritted his teeth. "That's not him. Don't leave me here. They're everywhere." "Shut up," Sam whispered to himself. "Shut up, shut up, shut." Suddenly, a high-pitched shriek tore through the trees, then a burst of frantic rustling, something large crashing through the underbrush, followed by a thud. Then silence. A long, yawning silence that pressed into their skulls. Then, for the first time in hours, something new happened. The wind changed. It carried with it a stench, putrid and coppery, like blood left to rot in the sun. Jess gagged and turned her face away. Mikey stood slowly, flashlight trembling in his grip. "Something's coming." Lauren stood beside him, clutching one of the flares like a weapon. The wind hissed louder now, rushing through the treetops like angry whispers. Then the trees bent, all of them, simultaneously, as though something enormous had exhaled. "What the hell?" Troy whispered. They looked up. A shape, barely visible against the black sky, passed above the canopy. Massive, shifting, wrong. Something that moved like smoke, but cast shadows like flesh. And then the fire flickered. Just once, but enough to throw fear into their guts. The momentary darkness made every nerve in their body scream. When the flames surged back up, Sam saw them. Figures. Dozens. Standing just outside the light, surrounding the clearing. Not moving. Just watching.
Each had a face, but none were real. They were masks, waxen, warped versions of the group's own faces, twisted in screams or wide-eyed panic. And they were close. Mikey raised his flashlight and shone it directly at one of them. It didn't flinch. It just stared back, the face slowly melting under the beam like ice under a hot sun. He dropped the light. "They're made of us," he muttered. "What?" Jess cried. "They wear your fear, your face. Every time someone disappears, they keep a piece of them. Wear it, reuse it." The wind moaned again like an ancient chorus of the damned. Troy stood slowly. "We can't stay here. We'll run out of wood. The fire's gonna die." "So we move, but we do it together, all of us." "Where?" Lauren asked. Sam pointed toward the higher ridge in the east. "There's an old ranger station, remember? We passed a sign for it half a mile up that switchback trail." Troy nodded. "Yeah, said it was decommissioned. Still might have shelter, maybe radio equipment or a generator." Lauren lit a second flare. "We go now, while we have the light." Jess hesitated. "What if they follow?" Sam looked toward the nearest figure. It had Jess's face now, expression slack, drool running down the side of its mouth. "They're already following." They moved fast. No one spoke. Lauren led, flare burning bright, casting hellish shadows across the path. Mikey took the rear, constantly turning, watching for movement. The moment they stepped beyond the fire, the forest changed. Sound warped. The wind stopped. Their own footsteps seemed muffled. Then came the static. Not sound, but a sensation. Buzzing in their teeth, pressure behind their eyes, like the air was filled with invisible electricity. "Don't stop," Lauren warned. "Keep moving." Sam saw the trees shift around them, subtly at first, then impossibly. The laughter didn't stop. It pulsed from the trees in waves, rising and falling like some unholy tide. Through the broken windows of the cabin, the group could see the shapes moving again, tall and thin, drifting between trees like marionettes without strings. Their movements were wrong, twitchy, as if the bones inside didn't match the bodies. Inside the ranger station, the air turned stale. The lantern cast a tight circle of light around them, but beyond that, only shadows. Then the laughter stopped. A new sound took its place. Scratching. Soft at first, like a nail across wood, then louder, more deliberate, coming from beneath the floorboards. Lauren raised her flare, ready to strike it. Troy knelt, pressed his ear to the floor. A beat. Then his eyes widened. He scrambled back. "There's something underneath us." The scratching quickened, echoing through the floor like something with claws was crawling through the foundation, searching for cracks. Then the floor buckled. A warped board popped free. Everyone jumped back. Through the hole, a long, pale hand reached up, its fingers grotesquely long, each joint bending the wrong way, knuckles raw and wet. Lauren struck the flare. The red flame roared to life. The hand recoiled instantly, smoke rising from the skin as if it were burning. It vanished back into the hole. Lauren kicked the board over it. "It can't stand fire. It's the only thing that hurts it." Jess whimpered. "That means it's real, not just a ghost. This thing is flesh." "And hungry," Sam muttered. He crossed to the scratched names on the wall again. There were more than they'd seen at first. Dozens, all written in the same frantic style, all carrying warnings. "Don't let it take your name. Don't answer yourself. The trees lie." One message stood out, carved deeper than the others. "If it knocks, don't open the door." The moment Sam read it aloud, there came a knock. A slow, deliberate knock. Knock, knock. Knock. 3 soft raps at the front door. Everyone froze. Jess put her hands over her mouth. Oh, God. "Don't move," Lauren whispered. Outside, a voice called out, "Hey, it's me, Mikey. I got lost. Let me in." Mikey stood in the middle of the room, pale and shaking. The voice came again, his voice. "I'm hurt. Please, I'm bleeding. Help me." Then another knock. Harder. "You said you wouldn't leave me." "Don't talk to it," Sam hissed. But Mikey was crying now. "It sounds just like me." Troy stepped forward, rage and fear bleeding into his voice. "We're not opening the goddamn door." More knocks, now rapid, angry. Then, slam. The door rattled in its frame, splinters raining from the hinges. "Back away!" Lauren shouted, waving the flare toward the door. Silence returned, but not peace, because now the voice had changed. "I'm inside already." Jess spun around. "What?" Lauren turned the flare in every direction. "No, that's not—" The radio crackled. "You brought me in when you spoke my name." Sam grabbed the radio and yanked the wires out. The voice stopped instantly. But now they heard footsteps inside the walls, scraping along the rafters. The cabin creaked. "It's hunting us," Mikey whispered. "It plays until we're too tired to think." "We're not safe here anymore," Troy growled. "I say we burn the whole cabin down and take our chances in the clearing." "We barely made it here in one piece," Jess snapped. Lauren lit the second flare. "We can make it back. The fire pit, it's still going. If we keep these lit the whole way—" Sam looked out the window. The darkness above pulsed like a living thing, veined, slow-breathing, full of awful intent. It wasn't a sky anymore. It was an eye. A massive, lidless, colorless eye, spanning the heavens, peering down into the clearing as if curious or hungry. The forest figures moved in unison beneath it, twitching and swaying like stalks in the wind. Each one wore the skin of someone the group had known, loved, lost, even themselves. Faces looped in impossible symmetry, like mirrors turned toward one another endlessly. Sam reached into his jacket, pulling out the emergency fire starter, just a tiny magnesium block and a striker. "Gimme anything dry," he said, kneeling at the dead fire pit. Lauren dropped her flannel shirt, tearing it into strips. Jess threw a few receipts and old wrappers from her pack onto the ashes. Mikey tore a page from the hiking map. "Come on, come on." Troy stood watch, machete raised, though his hands shook violently. "They're getting closer." The whispering thickened. It became a hum, not vocal but vibrational, in the bones. It rattled his ribs, made his jaw clench and his thoughts blur. He struck the magnesium. Spark. Nothing caught. He struck again. Spark. Flicker. Still nothing. The hum rose into a frequency that made the world tilt. Jess fell to her knees, clutching her head. "They're inside," she whimpered. "Inside my skull. I can feel them peeling it back." Lauren screamed. One of the forest things had stepped into the light, such as it was. It wore Derek's face, but stitched wrong like a taxidermy project done by a blind man. The mouth hung open. Ants poured out. Its hands were not hands anymore, long bark-like claws branching in 3 directions, twitching independently. It opened its mouth and sang. No words, just a slow, wet sound, like air moving through a tunnel of meat. Sam struck the fire starter again. Spark. A flame bloomed. The cloth caught. A tiny flame, barely enough to warm a candle, but it was light, and the creature staggered back. Sam blew gently, coaxing it. The fire grew, 6 inches, 8, then a whoosh as the magnesium ignited, sending up a brief torch of white-hot light. More creatures hissed and drew away. The circle was clearing again. Sam fed it with anything he could grab, pine needles, wrappers, a strip from his own pants leg. Lauren lit a second torch using the fire, wrapping it in her torn shirt and dipping it in alcohol from the first aid kit. Now they had 2 sources of light. Still, the darkness above watched. "You feel it?" Mikey asked softly. "It's not just them, it's what they serve. The thing behind the trees, the eye. The forest is a body, and that's its mind." "No," Troy said, stepping forward. "That's a god, a hungry god, and it's not just watching, it's deciding." The hum became voices again, chanting now, but not in any human language. It sounded like wind through bone. The ground shook. From the trees emerged something larger, not one of the face-wearing creatures, something older. Wider than a pickup truck, taller than a house. Its body was stitched together from tree bark and human limbs, long antlers curling from its skull like a monstrous elk, but its face was blank, smooth.
They didn't move for a long time. The fire roared beside them, its heat blistering but comforting, like a barrier between them and the unspeakable. The once living forest now stood silent, no longer pressing in from all sides. No mimicry, no false laughter, no twitching silhouettes, just quiet. Real quiet. The kind that feels earned. Sam sat on the dirt, staring into the flame. Blood caked his shirt, ash streaked his face. His knuckles were scraped raw from gripping the torch too hard. Jess was curled up next to Lauren, her breathing uneven, teeth chattering. Troy paced at the edge of the firelight like a caged animal. "It's not over. You all know that, right?" Lauren didn't lift her head. "It's never over. There's something left, something behind that thing," he gestured to where the porcelain-masked god had collapsed into a blackened crater. "That was a mouthpiece, a vessel, not the brain." Sam nodded, voice low. "It called itself into the woods, but the woods didn't make it. They just let it in." Jess spoke, barely above a whisper. "We should leave. Go back the way we came. Get out of these woods while we can." Troy stopped pacing. "What if the woods don't let us go?" They were all quiet after that. The thought clung to them like smoke. Lauren stirred and looked toward the shattered clearing. "Where's Mikey?" Sam didn't answer. Jess broke down again. Troy cursed under his breath, kicking at the dirt. Sam finally said, "He's gone." "No!" Lauren's voice hardened. "He didn't die. That thing took him, wore him. His body's still out there." They all turned to her. "You want to find his body?" Jess asked, voice cracking. "After everything?" Lauren didn't blink. "If it's still moving, we burn it." Sam looked into the fire again. "Then we find him." They armed themselves with burning brands, splitting the remaining wood into torches. The magnesium had all been used, but the alcohol had soaked deep into their clothes and cloth strips. They tied these to branches and lit them from the central fire before heading back into the woods. This time, the forest didn't whisper, but the trees seemed to move with them. The trail they followed bent at strange angles. Sometimes it looped, sometimes it climbed impossibly steep rises that hadn't existed before. The stars wheeled overhead in warped spirals, as if they were walking beneath a dome of warped glass. Time fractured. Jess checked her phone. The screen was cracked, no signal. The clock read 3:19 a.m. 5 minutes later, it still read 3:19 a.m. Then it blinked to 4:04, then 1 o'clock. Then it died completely. They stopped checking the time. Eventually, they came to the place where they had first heard Mikey's voice mimicked. The cabin wasn't far from there, or what was left of it. The ranger station had burned. Not collapsed, burned to the ground. Nothing but twisted nails, charred support beams, and melted glass. No one said anything. Sam stepped over the remains of the front door.
The carved names were gone. The walls were ash. But one thing remained, half-melted, blackened, but unmistakable. A tooth. Huge, human-shaped, root and all, buried in the ash like a relic. Sam pointed it out. Lauren knelt beside it, frowning. It didn't just burn. Troy nodded. This is aftermath, sacrifice. They turned to leave, then heard scraping from the trees. It was softer than before, slower. Sam stared into the well and felt it pulling him. Not physically, though his body leaned slightly forward, but in his thoughts, as if the darkness down there had a voice of its own, a voice that whispered things, not in words, but in images. Fire, blood, screams caught in throats, shapes that moved like smoke through dream logic, eyes without bodies, teeth without mouths. Behind him, Jess shivered violently. "I don't like this," she whispered. "There's something alive down there." Lauren circled the well slowly, keeping her torch close to the mossy rim. "These carvings, they're old. Older than the cabin. Older than this forest, maybe." Troy scoffed, but his voice held no confidence. "Nothing's older than the forest." Lauren looked at him dead-eyed. "Are you sure about that?" A gust of wind swirled down from the canopy, sharp as a blade. The torches sputtered. The flames danced and flickered in protest. Sam stepped back from the edge, heart pounding. Then they heard it. A sound from below. Not human, but trying to be. Like something down there was practicing the art of mimicry. A low moaning sound that rose and fell with unsettling cadence. "Is that Mikey again?" Jess asked, voice trembling. "No," Sam said, stepping in front of her. "Mikey's gone." The sound changed, became laughter, childlike, high-pitched, giggling like a child playing hide and seek. Then, voices. Not one, many, and familiar. Their own. Repeating lines they'd said earlier that night, from the moment they'd entered the forest. Jess's voice. "It's so quiet out here. Too quiet." Sam's voice. "This place feels like it remembers something." Lauren's voice. "Something awful happened here." And then, all together, in perfect chorus, "Something awful is about to happen again." A burst of wind blew through the clearing. One of the torches went out. Troy tightened his grip on his remaining flame. "It's copying us." Jess backed away from the well, eyes wide with panic. "We shouldn't be here. We shouldn't be here." Lauren's breath caught. She was staring at one of the symbols on the side of the well. "I've seen this before. In my dream, back at the cabin." She traced a jagged spiral with her fingertip, voice hollow. "This symbol, it means threshold." "Threshold to what?" Sam asked. Lauren looked up, her eyes reflecting torchlight like a predator's. "To the other side. To where it lives." Sam turned to Troy. "You still want to finish this?" Troy stepped forward. "We started this. If there's a way to end it, truly end it, it's down there." Jess shook her head violently. "You're insane. We go down there, we don't come back up." Lauren met her eyes. "If we don't, it might come up. Would you rather that?" For a long moment, none of them spoke. The well gaped before them, like a wound in the earth. Sam dropped a pebble in. No sound, no splash, only darkness swallowing darkness. "Rope," he said. "We'll tie it off to one of the trees, use the climbing gear from Jess's pack. We'll go one at a time. If anyone feels anything weird, we climb back up. No heroics." Troy was already looping the rope around the thickest pine in the clearing. "Let's find the heart of this place and put a stake through it." Sam went first. Descending into that black hole was like climbing down a throat. The moss-coated Troy hurled his torch at the hollow one. It passed straight through. The figure unraveled like smoke disturbed by wind, and then reformed behind them, whispering into Lauren's ear. "It's already inside you." She screamed and spun, swinging her own torch. The flame licked the air, but again the thing dispersed like ash and reassembled at the far side of the room, watching them with those terrible coal eyes. Sam turned to the floating book. It hovered motionless, flapping its pages slowly like a breathing lung. "This is the key," he muttered. "The book is the tether." Lauren, still shaking, nodded. "If we destroy it—" The hollow one's voice sharpened. "No." It boomed across the chamber, cracking one of the stone pillars. "You are mine now. You opened the gate. You let the flame in. Now you must pay the price." The pages of the book suddenly ignited, flames of unnatural color, blue, green, violet. The fire spread across the pages, but they did not burn. Instead, the fire revealed names. Their names. Sam, Lauren, Jess, Troy, etched in blood. Jess backed against the wall. "What the hell is this?" "It's a pact," Lauren whispered, "written before we ever got here. It used us, lured us in. We were part of the ritual from the beginning." Sam's head pounded. Memories of odd dreams, déjà vu, the way the map twisted, the strange ranger's journal. They weren't hallucinations. They were breadcrumbs. "Why us?" Sam asked aloud. The hollow one tilted its head like a curious dog. "Because you were open, hurt, afraid. You carried fear in your bones. You called to me." Troy gritted his teeth. "You think we're just gonna lie down and die?" "No," it hissed. "You're going to lie down and become." The faces in its form began to scream, hundreds of voices crying out in agonized harmony. Sam acted fast. He grabbed the book from the air. It burned his hands, but he didn't stop and slammed it back down on the altar. "Find something sharp," he yelled. Lauren pulled a rusted blade from a crack in the wall, an old ceremonial dagger etched with runes. Its handle looked like bone. Sam pressed the book open to the page bearing their names. "If this is the contract, we rewrite it." The hollow one moved then, not gliding, not walking. It pounced. It stretched like a serpent, jaws open wide. Jess screamed, but Troy stepped forward with his torch, thrusting it into the path of the creature. It shrieked and recoiled. Smoke hissed. Shadows peeled off the walls like strips of skin. Lauren brought the blade down on the book. Once. Twice. The blade didn't cut the pages. It sunk into them like water. The book shrieked. Not a metaphor. The book actually screamed. Sam yelled.
Next morning, Sam stood in the parking lot of the motel, staring toward the tree line across the road. The sunlight was sharp and golden, but it didn't comfort him. It felt false, like a film set, beautiful on the surface, hiding rot underneath. Jess joined him, arms wrapped tightly around herself, eyes puffy and red. "I dreamed about the well," she said, "about Troy." Sam didn't look at her. "Me too. He was under the water, reaching, but his face—" She shivered. "It wasn't right." "Same here," Sam said. Behind them, Lauren stepped out with her backpack. She didn't say anything, just handed them both a coffee. Her hands were trembling. They sat on the curb of the motel, not speaking for a long time. Then Lauren said what they were all thinking. "Something's still wrong." Sam nodded. "That thing we saw, I don't think it died." "It didn't," Jess whispered. "It split, left a part of itself behind, like a seed." Lauren pulled something from her pocket. It was a small, jagged stone, smooth, black as obsidian. It pulsed faintly with red light. "It was in my shoe," she said quietly, "this morning." Sam recoiled. "That's from the altar." "I think it's part of it." Her voice broke slightly. "It marked us." Jess stood up suddenly. "We have to go back." Sam's heart sank. "What are you talking about?" She turned, eyes wild. "You saw the same thing I did. The laughter, the faces in the shadows. It's not over. We didn't finish it. We just cut off one of its arms. The rest is still out there, still trying to break through." Lauren looked down at the stone in her hand. "Then what do we do?" Jess looked up, toward the tree line. "We burn the forest." By dusk, they were driving back in Sam's Jeep, winding up the same old highway, now scarred with memories. They didn't talk much. Lauren kept glancing in the side mirror, as if expecting something to be following them. Jess held a gas can on her lap like a holy artifact. Sam just gripped the wheel tighter. By nightfall, they arrived at the edge of the forest. There was no ranger, no signs, no warnings, just trees, waiting. They retraced their steps by flashlight. It felt different now. The forest wasn't whispering anymore, but it was watching. Dead leaves crunched beneath their boots like bones. Every so often, Sam swore he saw movement in the corner of his eye, a shifting shape, an outline in the dark, but every time he turned, nothing was there. The deeper they went, the heavier the air became, oppressive, electric, like walking into a thunderstorm that hadn't broken yet.
They left the forest behind, walking back toward the Jeep in stunned silence. The night had fallen thick, but it didn't feel like the same night as before. The air no longer crackled with unseen menace. No invisible eyes stalked them from the canopy. It was dark, yes, but natural. Still, none of them dared speak. They reached the vehicle around midnight. Jess climbed into the back and curled into a fetal position. Lauren got in front, but stared straight ahead, unmoving. Sam sat behind the wheel for a long time without starting the engine. He couldn't stop hearing it. That laughter. Not threatening, yet worse somehow because of it, like a child's giggle in a morgue. "Sam," Lauren said quietly, "drive." He turned the key. The engine roared to life, and they sped away from the tree line. For a long time, the only sound was tires on gravel and the whir of cool air through cracked windows. Then Jess whispered from the back seat, "It's not over." Sam gripped the wheel. "I know. Even if we burn that place, we didn't destroy everything. That seed, that mark on us, what if it grows somewhere else?" Lauren pulled the black stone from her coat pocket. It hadn't turned to ash like the spiral. It hadn't cracked or melted. It pulsed, faint, steady, like a dying heartbeat. Sam pulled into a rest stop miles away and killed the headlights. They all stepped out and walked to a bench near the trees, far enough from the road to be alone, but close enough for comfort. Lauren set the stone on the table. None of them could stop looking at it. "Do we destroy it?" Jess asked. "With what?" Sam muttered. "We tried fire. It didn't burn. Acid, maybe?" Lauren frowned. "It's not just a stone. It's watching us." Sam turned to her, suddenly angry. "Then why the hell did you bring it?"
Because I couldn't leave it behind, she snapped. It was in my shoe. It chose me. They stared at each other, breath steaming in the night air. Then Jess leaned in, eyes locked on the stone. It's calling to something. Sam looked around the woods surrounding them. The trees were still. Nothing moved. But then, tap, 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 like fingers on bark. Jess stood suddenly. It's here! No, 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 Sam whispered. Not again! From the woods, a figure emerged. It wasn't shadowy or monstrous or inhuman. It was a man in a forest ranger's uniform. But his face, it wasn't right. His skin was too tight. His eyes were too dark. He didn't blink. He just stepped closer and spoke with a voice like dry leaves blowing across pavement. You've seen the gate. Lauren backed away. What are you? I keep the balance, or I did, until you broke it. Jess pointed to the stone. We destroyed the well. We burned the seed. We ended it. The man shook his head slowly. No, you disrupted the flow. You tipped the scale. Now something worse is coming through.
Sam froze. The names in the dirt bled slowly, like open wounds etched into the earth itself. The letters writhed, stretching like leeches searching for skin. It wasn't just symbolic, it was alive. Jess staggered forward, shaking. That's not possible. We ended this. We burned the well. We destroyed the altar. Lauren grabbed her shoulder, voice tight. This isn't the same one. It's another gate. Sam stepped closer to the well. Cold air bled up from its mouth, and the stone rim pulsed with that same steady beat, the same rhythm as the black stone Lauren had found. He whispered, It didn't just mark us. It multiplied, copied itself. And now they were standing in its next nursery. From the trees behind them, the creatures began to gather again. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Silent, shifting, changing forms moment to moment. Some had mouths in the wrong places. Some dragged long arms that bent in too many joints. All of them bore eyes that sparkled red, like dying embers. Jess turned to face them. They're not attacking. Why aren't they attacking? Sam stared at the well. Because they're waiting. For what? Lauren asked. He looked down at the names again. For us to finish the ritual. The realization dropped over them like a noose tightening around the neck. They've been using us, not just bait, participants. Lauren gritted her teeth. Then let's end it, again, for good this time. She raised the ceremonial dagger. The ground beneath them shook, but not like before. Not rage, not fear. Laughter. From the well, that same childlike giggle warped and doubled, as if two voices laughed in harmony, one human, one not. And then, a hand emerged from the well. A pale, blood-slick hand with long, broken fingers. Jess shrieked. The hand grasped the stone rim and pulled. Troy climbed out. But it wasn't him. His skin was too smooth, like wet clay. His eyes were wrong, solid black, no whites, no irises. His mouth stretched into a grin that nearly touched his ears, and when he spoke, it was in their voices. Sam, Lauren, Jess. 3 voices, all mismatched and layered, like a recording looped back on itself. The thing wearing Troy's body stepped forward. You came back.
That means you belong. That means you're ready. Lauren pointed the dagger at it. You're not him. It nodded, then grinned wider. Not anymore. Without warning, the earth cracked open around the well, a deep gash ripping through the clearing. From within, black vines erupted, writhing upward, grabbing at their legs. Sam dodged. Lauren slashed with the blade. Jess fell, tangled in a coil. The thing lunged. Sam tackled it, but his hands passed through it like mist, cold and oily mist that burned where it touched his skin. He rolled away, gasped.
2 weeks later, the nightmares hadn't stopped. Jess awoke every night at exactly 3:33 a.m., gasping for air, drenched in sweat. Always the same dream. The well, the vines, Lauren's eyes, empty, black, bleeding tears, and the sound of that impossible laughter. It followed her everywhere. In store aisles, behind car windows, beneath the drone of white noise. And Sam? He hadn't spoken to her since they parted ways at the gas station outside the forest. No texts, no calls, no sign of life online. It was like he'd vanished. But Jess knew better. He hadn't vanished. He'd gone back. And now she had to follow. She packed nothing but essentials: flashlight, journal, flares, and the box. The one Lauren had given her the day before the final hike. "You'll know when to open it," she had said. Now Jess sat in her car outside the familiar entrance to Black Hollow National Park, clutching the box on her lap. The sun dipped behind the trees, the shadows grew long, and Jess felt her breath catch in her throat. She opened the box. Inside were 3 things: a worn photograph of all 4 of them from years ago, camping, smiling, free. A lock of Lauren's hair tied in a piece of red thread. A note scribbled in Lauren's handwriting: "If you're reading this, I'm gone, but the well isn't the end. It's a doorway, and something's still open. You'll know it when you hear it. You'll know what to do when the pines begin to whisper again. Love you always. Be brave." Jess tucked the items into her coat pocket and stepped into the woods. The forest greeted her with silence. No bugs, no birds, just the creak of wind in the boughs. She hiked for hours, retracing old steps. The air thickened the deeper she went, as if she were moving through honeyed mist. The trees seemed older than she remembered, taller, more twisted, and the shadows fell in strange directions. Eventually, she found the tree. Lauren's tree. Her name still carved in bark. But the carving was bleeding. Dark sap oozed from the letters like coagulated blood. Jess backed away, then heard it. Crunch behind her. She spun. Sam stood there. His clothes were torn, his skin pale, his eyes hollow. But he was alive. "Sam!" He didn't speak. Jess stepped forward slowly. "Where have you been?" Still, he said nothing. His gaze flicked toward the tree, then to the left, into the forest. Jess followed his eyes, and there it was. Another clearing. But this one wasn't like the others. It was perfectly round, perfectly silent. The trees around it bent inward, as if listening. And in the center stood a mirror, 7 feet tall, framed in twisting roots. Its surface shimmered like...
Jess didn't realize she was crying until she saw her tears fall onto the stone in her hand. It pulsed with each drop,
like it was feeding off her grief, her exhaustion, her fear. She wanted to throw it, wanted to crush it, but something about it held her still. "Sam," she whispered. He didn't respond. He sat slumped against a tree, face in his hands, silent and shaking. Not from fear this time, but something deeper, something broken. Jess moved toward him slowly. "Sam, it's over. We stopped it." He looked up. "No," he said, voice trembling. "We didn't stop it. We changed it." The black stone in Jess's hand pulsed again, harder this time, faster. Thump-thump, thump-thump. It had synced to her heartbeat. Jess's mind reeled. What does that mean? Sam pointed at the ground beneath the place where the mirror had stood. There was a symbol burned into the dirt, a spiral with 4 arms twisting inward. Jess had seen that before, in the well, on the stone, beneath Lauren's fingernails. "It's a cycle," Sam muttered. "It keeps going, always has. Only now, we're in it." The forest rustled. But this time, it wasn't the whisper of wind. It was a voice. "Lauren!" Jess spun around. "Did you hear that?" Sam nodded slowly. "Yes." "Lauren!" Jess called. Silence. Then again, "You're close." The voice was soft, distant, but it wasn't coming from the trees. It was coming from the stone. Jess nearly dropped it. She held it at arm's length. Sam stood shakily, moving beside her. "It's not just a marker. It's a conduit," Jess finished. "A vessel, a prison, a path." The stone glowed faintly now, almost like a lantern. It wasn't just alive, it was aware. Jess looked to Sam. "She's in there. Part of her is." Sam nodded. "Or something wearing her." They stood in silence for a long time. Then Jess made her decision. "I'm going in." Sam grabbed her arm. "No, no, Jess. We barely made it out last time. She's still alive in there, or her soul, or whatever's left. She gave herself to stop this, but maybe she didn't have to. Maybe there's still a way to bring her back. We don't know what this thing is. We don't know what it wants." Jess turned to him. "Then why does it keep calling my name?" The stone pulsed again. Thump-thump, thump-thump. Sam looked at her for a long time, then slowly nodded. "Then I'm going with you." Jess hesitated. "If something—" "We go together." She looked down at the stone, then pressed it to her forehead. There was a flash, a rush of heat, and the world flipped inside out. The forest was gone. They stood in a landscape of shadows and bone. The sky pulsed red. Trees twisted like sinew, roots embedded in nothing. And ahead of them, the well. Only now it was impossibly tall, rising like a tower into the sky.
3 months later. Autumn came fast. The forest changed. The leaves burned gold and crimson, and the air smelled of pine needles and ash. Black Hollow National Park reopened to the public after a quiet maintenance closure that no one could explain. Hikers returned, families wandered through the foliage, and the rangers smiled and waved. But no one came near the old trail. Not anymore. Because something in the woods had changed. Or perhaps something had finally gone to sleep. Jess sat alone at the edge of the trail, cross-legged in the cold dirt. She hadn't come back here for answers. There were none left that would make sense. She'd come for closure. She still carried the stone, not in her hand now, but around her neck, hidden beneath a silver chain, smooth, warm against her skin, beating faintly. A reminder of Lauren, of Sam, of what the forest had once been and what it had become.
They had both given everything, and she had lived. She wasn't sure if she'd ever forgive herself for that. A quiet wind brushed through the trees. No whispers, no screams, just the world breathing. Jess exhaled and pulled a notebook from her backpack. The same one she'd started months ago. The pages were nearly full now, scrawled with memories, symbols, drawings of twisted faces, nightmares that wouldn't leave her. She opened to the final page, wrote just 4 words. "It is still watching." She paused, then wrote one more. "But I am too." She closed the book and placed it in the hollow of a nearby tree, the same one that had once held Lauren's carving. That tree no longer bled. Its bark had healed. But if you looked close, you could still see the faint outline of her name. Jess pressed a hand to it gently. "I hope you found peace." As she stood, she noticed something small in the dirt beside her boot. A pine cone, but black as coal, glossy, unnatural. It hadn't been there a second ago. She picked it up cautiously. It pulsed once, then stilled. She smiled bitterly. "You're still in there, aren't you?" No answer came, but she didn't expect one. She turned and began to walk away, down the old trail that had once tried to eat her alive. Step by step, with the crunch of dry leaves beneath her boots, the wind behind her shoulders, and the memory of Sam's smile in her heart. But as she crossed the boundary where the trees thinned and the grass reappeared, she heard it. Just once, a faint whisper, from deep, deep within the woods. "Thank you." She stopped, smiled, and didn't turn back.